Welcome to the Hodgypodgy podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Strati, and this is another one of our Therapy Thursday episodes. This episode is the big episode I have been talking about for quite some time. It's one of the big reasons why I decided to do a podcast in the first place. Something that I have had experience with, something that is very serious, that I think we need to talk more about to try and prevent it from happening more to those we love. So I will issue a trigger warning here. We will be talking about taking one's life. I have to be very careful with the words I use because social media platforms, things like YouTube, anything like that can actually censor or ban this content for saying this particular word. So if I say unaliving oneself or taking one's life, their own life, you know the word that I'm trying to say and that I mean. I just can't say it here. I also can't say what weapon of choice someone decided to use either. I have to be very cautious and careful with what I say. It's just the way that it is. It's still a very taboo subject. It's still a very sensitive subject, but it has been happening more and more and more, especially the last few years. And I refuse to back down and not talk about it, even if I have to change my words a little bit, just so I can get this out to people that may be dealing with this or know loved ones that are dealing with this topic. So that being said, again, trigger warning, this episode is not for children in any way, shape, or form. It can be served as a helpful tool to use to look for signs if you have children struggling with depression and things like that. But it is not typically for children to listen to. So again, this episode will be talking about somebody taking their own life, struggling with those thoughts. I will also be talking about my experience with those thoughts, how close I've gotten to actually doing that, what has gotten me out of that, what tips and tricks and tools I use that may seem unconventional to others, but I feel like they are extremely helpful because it is something that is real and the consequences of those actions are very real. So you need to understand that before deciding to do something like that. So we will get into my story, my tips, my tricks in a little bit, but we're just going to get the numbers, the statistics out of the way because I feel like it's important to know those numbers, at least some of them, since they are rising and they have been rising for the last decade. So before I start with anything, I will repeat this number multiple times. There is an easy hotline for those that are struggling and feel like they need somebody else's voice in their head besides their own, and they don't want to go to somebody that they love. There is a hotline for this, and it's 988 in the US. So that's something, they've simplified it, thank goodness, for people because whenever they used to give out that hotline number, how is anybody going to remember this big, long number? But now it's simply just 988. So it's too many people were calling 911, and they'd get cops showing up at their home or wherever, and it was a mental health issue, which cops may not be the best trained professionals to deal with that, and things could go. There were people that were harmed that just needed mental help, and so 911 wasn't the best to be used, so they created the 988. So remember that. Write it down if you ever need it. That is there for you. You can call it or text it. So, but we're going to start with And again, as I've said before, I will be reading from my notes a lot because it keeps me focused, especially on this topic. I really want to stay focused and make sure I don't miss anything. So we're going to start with the national statistics. With taking one's life was the 11th leading cause of death in the United States in 2022, with 49,476 deaths recorded. This year marked the highest number of those on record. For every death by that, there are approximately 52 of them of the attempts reported, and around 336 people who seriously consider it each year. So that's per I will say the word suicide occasionally because I can't not, and it's just it is what it is. It's what people do. But I will try not to say it too much because I really don't want to be censored or banned. But so for every one of those that happened, there were 52 attempts and 336 people who seriously considered it. I feel like, and that's just recorded, right? That's how many times has it not been recorded that isn't on here? Like that number is way higher. We know it's way higher. So, but these numbers highlight how many lives are directly affected, not only by the loss, but the ongoing struggle with those thoughts and the actions. So it also shows that men die by that way nearly 4 times the rate of women. In 2022, white males accounted for 68.5% of all of those deaths. American Indian and Alaskan Native individuals had the highest rate among racial and ethnic groups at 16.1 per 100,000, followed by white individuals at 15.8 per 100,000. So this is definitely, and it's the reason why it's for 2022 and not for 2023 is because all of that information takes a lot of time to be gathered, and it has not yet been gathered. So this was updated. The last time it was updated was June of this year in 2024. So we will have to wait till 2025 sometime, probably in the middle of the year, to get 2023. And from everything that I've seen and heard, 2024 is going to be even higher because the amount of ones I've heard about have been insane. It's a lot. But it says older adults have particularly higher rates, especially those 85 and older, while rates among young remain concerningly high, even though slightly lower than in the past. I feel like this year and 2023, that's not the case. They're higher. The amount of kids that have done this, that it's really scary and it's really high. So method most commonly used is the firearm. We don't really need to go into what else is done for that's not, I don't feel like that's important to go into that. I want to focus more on the numbers because we all need to understand. And listen, I know this isn't a fun topic. Whenever I've tried to talk to my husband about it, I know he doesn't want to talk about it. It's not fun. It's not something, it's not his deal. Whether those thoughts have happened to him or somebody he knows, somebody he loves, me, it's not something. I think the reason he doesn't like to focus on it is because he knows that I've struggled with it, and it's scary for him to imagine if I were to have done that I wouldn't be here, and he would be without me, and so would our kids. So I think it's scary for him to know that I'm going to talk about this stuff in detail because it might put him in that place. But I can't not talk about it because it might scare you. It happens. Everybody you know has been affected by it in some way, whether they've had the thought, whether they've tried it, whether they know somebody that has done it, or has tried it or has thought it. Like every single person that you know has been affected by this. And we can't ignore that. And before I forget, I want to make this also very clear. This is not a blame game. I am not here. If this happened to somebody you love, this is not me blaming you or saying you should have known, you should have done something. This is not what I'm doing here. I am not blaming you for somebody else's actions that have happened in the past. You only know what you know at the time. So if you were to listen to this episode completely, listen to what I've said, see signs from somebody and ignore them because you were scared to confront them about it, and then something happened, then yeah, you might, feeling guilty for that might be warranted. But this isn't having you relive your past and having that if something happened to somebody that you know, this isn't to make you feel guilty for that. You only know what you know at the time. So please don't feel any additional guilt for something that's happened in the past. That's not what we're focusing on. This is to prevent and help you if you've struggled, or help others that have struggled. That is all. This is not a trip down like memory lane for guilt. So I just want to establish that. So, like I was saying, the numbers have been insanely high. Even for the U.S. military, overall, there were 523 reported of these in 2023 compared to the 493 in 2022. The number of active duty troops who died by this method increased to 363 from 331. So it's increasing everywhere. There's also, in 2023, the most recent provincial data shows that the rates in the U.S. are likely to remain high. That, like I said, with middle-aged adults, young adults 25 to 34 saw some of the highest rates through this method, and also rose among teenagers and young adults ages 10 to 24. 10 years. My son is 10. My son is 10 years old, and I can't imagine. It's insane to me, and we have to talk about it. We can't just be afraid because it is a taboo subject and it's sensitive. Not talking about it is, and thinking that it's better to not talk about it is a myth. It's not helpful to avoid it, because what that does is that creates an environment for somebody who is struggling with those thoughts. It's creating an environment for them to feel like they're not safe to talk about it with somebody that they care about, because they might be judged or they might scare somebody, and then they're left to deal with it alone. If they don't have the proper tools, then the chances of them going through with it increase. So it needs to be a conversation had, whether you think that somebody has had these thoughts or not. Especially with kids nowadays, with social media, with the way things are, it needs to be talked about whether they've shown any signs of this or not. They need to know that you are there for them. Whether you're a parent, a friend, an aunt, an uncle, whoever, they need to know that if they're struggling, you are a place to go where there's no judgment. There's no judgment. There's nothing to be scared of by coming to you. That needs to be something, because kids hide things enough. Teenagers especially hide things enough. But something like this, they need to know that they have someone safe to go to, that they can talk to about it. But so the data on teen deaths in this way related to social media suggest significant shifts in mental health and the rates over recent decades. Research indicates that these rates started rising notably around 2010, coinciding with the widespread adoption of smartphones and social media. Between 2007 and 2017, the rates for teens in the U.S. climbed over 50%, with substantial increases in self-reported depressive symptoms and suicidality among adolescents after 2010, particularly in girls. One of my nieces, my sister just told me a couple weeks ago that one of my nieces, I think she might have been, I can't quite remember what year she graduated, it was in like 2018 or something, but 17 kids alone in her class. And it's not like it was a huge high school in Washington. It was it's even still, even if it was a big high school class, that's still 17 teenagers that are no longer here because they took that way out of life. That is just an extremely high number of children to do that to themselves. So, social media's potential impact on adolescent mental health includes increasing exposure to cyberbullying, social comparison, and harmful content that could exacerbate existing vulnerabilities. Some studies suggest that while social media can offer support and a sense of belonging, it often also increases feelings of loneliness, inadequacy, leading to higher rates of depression and anxiety. These mental health issues are often correlated with elevated risks of taking one's life. So it's social media and kids don't mix. I am extremely grateful that I didn't have that in my time. I had these tools in my arsenal when I was a kid, which is what kept me here. But at least some of them I've created more as I've gotten older. But I don't know if that particular tool I had at that time would have been enough if there was social media when I was a kid. There were certain things that, like, camera phones would have been out and filming me. Like, I borrowed a friend's white dress I stayed the night at her house, borrowed her dress, didn't have anything else to wear, didn't realize, I was 13, 14, and this dress was see-through for the most part. And I was wearing a bright blue thong underwear with orange around, like orange, it was orange lined with the word tease on it. Thanks, Wet Seal. But I knew that people were staring at me all day, and I didn't want to realize why, because I didn't know that if I took those off, if you could see even more. Like, I didn't know. I didn't really have good friends at the time that I could count on to give me an opinion on that. So I was in art class with two guys I had a huge crush on. They were commenting about it the entire time. I had to sit down, which made it seem more. Like, could you imagine having cell phones at that time? I would have been recorded. I would have been all over social media. Like, it would have been insane. And I would have been completely humiliated. Who knows what would have happened? Like, that was one of the most mortifying experiences I've ever had, especially growing up. So I am extremely grateful that there was no social media or anything like that back when I was growing up, because I don't know what would have happened. But it is, like I've said before, social media has its place, but for teenagers and for kids, I don't think they belong on there. And I think it needs to be drilled into their heads that somebody else's highlight reel and somebody else's whatever chapter they're in their life you don't compare yours to theirs. It's not the same. We already compare ourselves enough as it is, and social media just exacerbates that and makes it even worse. So I definitely feel like that's something that has changed and increased the rate of that happening to children is the social media aspect of it, because everything's put online. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is safe anymore for them. And those innocent souls need to be protected at all costs. So with that being said, I will start talking about some of the stories that I've experienced and what I've used to help get through my situations. So, but I want to start with the warning signs that you can look for, because some people say that there was no sign. There's, like, God forbid if I ever went through or completed doing that, there would have been signs. There would have been signs. I have said things, my actions have said things to show that I was struggling. There would have been signs. I would say, like, maybe I should just not be here anymore. Maybe things would be better off if I was dead. Maybe, or just being really withdrawn, tired, not wanting to do anything. But some of the signs to look for are, like I said, withdrawal from friends or activities, talking about feeling hopeless or being a burden. That's a huge thing I said all the time. Like, I'm so sorry. I said it to my husband a lot. I feel like I'm such a burden to you. I wish I wasn't such a burden. I make things harder for you. I'm so sorry. Like, if I was gone, it would be easier. Like, you would get insurance money and you would find somebody else that maybe wasn't as complicated as me. You would have the support of your family. You'd have the support of our friends. You'd be totally fine. And the look on his face was just like, no, that's not, no. But it's something that I said. I was a burden. And that was one of those things where if I felt like if I wasn't here, I wouldn't be a burden anymore. Problem solved. So also sudden changes in moods, in your mood, including seemingly unusually calm after being in a depression. That's something it's scary for me, because I go back to those times where I've done that. I've been in that depressive state and then, like, accepted what I was going to do and was calm with my kids, was calm with my husband, or was, when I was in my 20s, like, really calm, prepping myself to do what I was going to do. And everything was clicking in my mind on what, like, the little checklist I was going to do. So I don't want people to freak out if you see somebody that has been depressed and all of a sudden they're in a good mood. Like, you think that they're just going to throw themselves off a bridge or something. But you can check in with them. Just make sure that they're okay. And let them know how loved they are. And tell them positive things about them. And even be blunt with them and say, listen, I'm worried about you. I just want to make sure you know that we want you to stay. No matter what you've done, no matter what you did, will do, you are so loved and you need to stay. So please, if you're struggling with those thoughts, just know how much we love you and to talk to us. So it's uncomfortable, guys. It really is uncomfortable. But what would be more uncomfortable? Having that conversation or burying that person? And I don't mean to be harsh about it, but we have to be real, right? Like, have that conversation. If they get pissed at you, fine, whatever. But have that conversation, do what you can, because you can only do so much, but know that you are doing what you can. And that's going to be so much better than this other outcome. So just, again, I know it's uncomfortable, but having those talks, letting those people know that you love them, it really means a lot. So, but what can help protect somebody from doing this is having a strong support network. Like I said, always letting someone know that you're there for them. If it's you that's struggling, fall back on your support system. If you don't have a support system for whatever reason, there is the 988. I know that seems like, well, they don't care. They're just a number, but it's someone to talk to. It's someone that doesn't know you, never met you, isn't going to judge you because they don't know you, and you can just talk to them. You can talk to me. I'm not going to judge you. I'm the last person in the world that would judge anybody for this. Like, hello. I'm talking about my own stuff here too. Like, I'm not, if you are struggling with this stuff and you need that support system and you feel you don't have that strong support network, I'm right here. Please, like, this isn't a place to be worried about being judged or anything like that. Or worried about, is it going to be awkward or anything like that? I'm right here. Please come to me. I promise. I will save space for you. I will talk to you. Just, if you don't have anybody else, or even if you do, but you're like, you know what? I know that she understands. Message me. Social media, DM me, email me. I always have those in my show notes, so you can always click on them and connect with me. So please do. But we're moving along here. Like I said before, talking about it makes it worse. Not true. That's one of the myths. If you talk about it, it actually opens up conversations and lets whoever's struggling know that they can come to somebody and talk to them. And it says that it happens without warning. Many people do show signs. Like I said, a friend of ours may, if I were to have done that, like, wow, she showed no signs. I did. And those that were close to me would have known that. So thankfully that's not something that I did, but there would have been signs. There normally are signs, unless they're really, 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 really good at covering it up. But there's always at least something that somebody sees, and some sort of, like, you feel that pit in your gut, like, something doesn't feel quite right, and I need, then follow up with that, please. But there's talking about ways to help, talking about like how those thoughts are normally temporary, even if they feel overwhelming, which is true. They do pass, but sometimes they feel so intense. They hit you all at once. And you just feel like, if I just end this now, that will be gone. And you feel that sense of relief. Like, oh man, if I were to do that, all of this stuff I'm dealing with would be gone. Everybody that I care about would never have to worry about me ever again. They wouldn't have to deal. And these thoughts come rushing in, and you just feel like this is the absolute right thing to do. But, and this is where I'm going to start to talk about my story. There are things, if you are going down that path and you're seriously thinking like, this is the way, me not being here anymore, me taking my own life is the way to go. Before you do that, please listen to my story. Whether you believe in God, in the universe, in spirits, in ghosts, in psychics, in whatever, this is what saved me for a lot of years. And I read this book it was about a psychic named Sylvia Brown. You can say she's been debunked and whatever a million times, but she said that if one takes their own life, and again, it doesn't matter what you believe, okay? It doesn't matter if you believe in this stuff or not. This is what helped me, because it scared the crap out of me thinking about it. If you were to take your own life, you get shot right back in. You get reincarnated right back into this life, but you have to start over. That was absolutely terrifying to me to think about. So I'm already, at the time I think I was reading that book, I was 12 or something. And I was thinking, I'm 12 years into this life. And then I would always that would be the big thing that I would hold on to is I'm 18. I just was in this car accident. This whole big thing happened. I'm 20. This thing happened. I'm down the road. All these different things happened. I'm already at this point in my life. If I were to do this and there is a chance I get sent back and I have to start over and deal with all of these issues again, but in a different body, with different family members, with different friends, with different pets, with everything is, and who knows what the issues, I know it'll be similar issues, but who knows what they're going to be this time. I have to start all over. And that was the biggest thing that kept me from doing it, because I did not want to start over. I didn't want to have different people in my life. I didn't want to have things. I didn't want to look different. I didn't want to have all of those things start again. So I just kept going. And I kept going and I kept going and I kept going. And then there was a really hard time in my 20s. I had my heart broken a bunch by people that didn't truly care about me. I felt like I didn't matter. I was living by myself it was just me and my 2 cats. I felt I wasn't good enough for anybody. Nobody wanted me. Nobody cared. And there was a friend of mine who worked at the bank with me at the time, and she had just lost her brother. Her twin brother passed away in a really tragic car accident. And I remember just crying on the floor. I had never met him, but he was so loved in the community. Most people knew him. I was going to meet him, but I wasn't given that opportunity because he had passed away. But he was so loved, and the outpouring and the sadness, the outpouring of love and sadness and for this young man was so incredible. And I was just like, please, God, I know I am not worth the same amount as him. I am worth so much less, but please take my life and bring him back. I cried on my floor in my apartment and just begged God to take me. Please take me. He's so much more loved than I am. Look at me. I'm all alone. He was so loved. Please take me. And it threw me into a really bad place and a really bad depression. And I remember this night, I was watching the movie Phantom of the Opera. And I saw the main character, Christine, and how loved she was by these 2 men. They loved her so much. She had such beauty and talent. I felt I didn't have any of those things. And I was so depressed that I hadn't heard from my mom. I hadn't heard from my best guy friend at the time. I just got into this place that nobody will miss me when I'm gone. If I do this now, they won't find me for days, first of all. And nobody's going to care that I'm gone. I can't compare it to her, to Phantom of the Opera. Christine, I can't compare to her. This young man was so much more loved than I was. There was a theme, obviously, right? I didn't feel like I was loved. I wanted to be loved so much. I didn't think that I was enough. I didn't think I was worth staying. And I got myself prepared. I had my kitchen sharp utensil on the bathtub, on the side of the bathtub. I was getting prepared to ice my wrists. That was gonna be what I did. But my cats come into, and I'm sitting on my toilet icing my wrist, getting ready to do this, getting ready to go into the tub, and my cats come in to the bathroom. I just look at them and think, well, who the hell is going to take care of them? They love me. Who's going to take care of them? My best guy friend isn't in a place where he can really do that. Is he actually going to take good care of them? Probably not. Nobody else I know is going to do it. And they would just be there for who knows how many days before I'm discovered. And I was like, I can't do that to them. And those cats, like, it sounds ridiculous, maybe, but those 2 cats literally saved my life because I loved them so much that I chose to stay. And thank God I did, because that was when I was 20 and I'm 39 now. Imagine if I did that. Multiple lives would have been affected by that. And that's not to say, like, that's not to toot my own horn, but at the same time it is. I chose to stay. I have 2 amazing children. Now, I have a husband. I have in-laws that I love so much that have benefited from me being in their lives and vice versa. That wouldn't have happened had I done that. All because I compared myself to other people. And I was insistent on not feeling loved by myself. Like, I didn't love myself enough. But I had those cats and I loved them enough. And that was enough for me to stay. But that time was one of the closest times I've ever gotten. And it's scary to think about. But what's also scary is I remember finding this out not too long ago. I had a talk with that guy friend, and he said to me, yeah, I remember like that time in your life. And I remember thinking that I should probably check in on you and that I had a feeling something was up with you, but I didn't check on you. He had a feeling that something was going on with me, but he didn't check in on me. That right there. That is not the feeling you ever want to ignore. Because what if I did that? How would he have felt? I should have checked on her. I knew something was wrong and I didn't check. I was afraid. I figured I was just wrong. It's okay to be wrong. Just try. Even if you're wrong. Even if the person's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm totally fine. Okay, but I love you. And I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Oh, well, thank you. That's not something you want to live with. So again, we're not trying to go back into the past and make you feel guilty about stuff that happened. If you had that feeling and you didn't realize, now you know. If that feeling ever happens again, you're not gonna ignore it. There's no way. I know you won't. So that was one that is really burned into my memory. But as time went on, multiple things happened. And that idea of not, like, if I were to take my own life, I'd be shot right back. I was like, would that really be so bad? Like, what if that didn't happen? But then I have read several stories of people that have had spiritual encounters. Again, believe whatever you want to believe. But that have had spiritual encounters with those that have taken their own lives. And those people that have had those experiences, like those outer body experiences or vivid dreams, whatever you want to call them, they've come into contact with spirits that have taken their own lives. And because again, depending on what you believe, some believe that your soul is more than just in here. It can also be other places as well. That's like what you dream about, different things. It doesn't matter. But one particular gentleman said that every soul that he encountered that had taken their own life was stuck here. for the duration of what would have been their life to watch their life play out without them. And then they would get sent back to redo it all over again, to complete their mission. Because you are here for a reason. You're not just some sack of bones that is just here to live and to die and then turn to dust. There's no way, truly in your heart of hearts, you believe that that's what you're here for. You're not just here without purpose or meaning. So that's even more terrifying to think about. If I were to do that, I would just watch my family suffer for the duration, however many years I was supposed to have left. And then I'd still get sent back. And that stopped me cold for a long time, thinking about that. But then I was like, well, I deserve it. That's totally fine. They will be absolutely fine without me. So that was a thought I kept having. My family would be fine. They'd be better off. My husband wouldn't have to worry about money because of the insurance. I know that family members would help him. They would have, like, my kids would be taken care of because Mima and Pappy would help so much, and their aunts would help. My friends down the street would help. Then I was like, okay, so let's go through this then. And this may feel intense. This may feel uncomfortable, what I'm going to say, but these are the tools that I highly, highly, highly recommend you use and you do if you have these thoughts, if you are considering doing this. Because if you're gonna do this, then do it. Then, like, do it in your head. Like, take it, picture it playing out. This isn't something small that you're doing when you make this decision. So let's do it. Let's do it in our heads. Let's play it out. And this is what I would do. I would first start with a note. Write a note to your kids. If you have children or your parents, write a note explaining why you're leaving and try and justify why you think that they are not good enough to stay for, because that is what they're going to think. It doesn't matter how much pain you're in. They will say and they will feel that they weren't good enough for you to stay. And then what do you think is going to happen to them when they struggle in life? You left, so why won't they do the same thing? Right? You took the easy way out. Why wouldn't they? And I tried writing those notes, and I only got kind of far one time, the last time I truly felt that amount of sorrow and sadness and depression. And because my husband's like, what would you say to our son? Because he's super sensitive. What would you say? So I started to write it out. And I got maybe a few sentences in, but there's no way I could justify it. Mom is hurt too much. I can't do it anymore. But I love you. And I know that he wouldn't feel like that because I left him. I chose to leave. So after I couldn't get through the note, if the feeling was still there, then plan it out. Plan out the whole thing. And this is going to get rough, and I'm sorry, but this is serious, and you need to understand that you making that choice affects everybody. So if you're going to do it, let's plan it. How you're going to do it. Where you're going to do it. When you're going to do it. Nope. Aftermath. What's the aftermath? You do it. What do you look like? Who's going to find you? What happens when they find you? Is it somebody that you love that finds you? Is it some stranger? Is it a cop? Because you're in a car? What is it? Go through it. Okay. Say it's a stranger. Imagine getting the people that you love getting the notification that you're gone. What you did. Getting the note. Reading the note. Planning your funeral. Holidays. Birthdays. Every day. Different things. Everything you've experienced with them. Gone. Go through it all. Seriously. Go through all of it. Imagine. Like, that's what stopped me every time. Because I wouldn't, and I've thought about, again, sorry, this is rough. I've thought about if I were to do it in my own house, what it would be like for them, for my husband, for my kids, what it would be like having cops traipse through the house, pictures taken, me being wheeled out. Or if I were to go down to the favorite beach that I love, do it there. Him getting a phone call, having to drive down, identify me, having to tell my kids, having to tell the rest of my friends and family, having to plan life without me. Do that. Seriously. Try and do those things in your head and see how far you actually get in completing those plans. I guarantee you're not going to get very far. Just the notification process alone. Who loves you the most? Who do you know that you love the most? Because everybody has somebody that they love that will get that notification, that will get that call, that knock on the door. And imagine, you think that person is going to celebrate? Or do you think that their world is going to crumble? And that they're going to spend the rest of their lives blaming themselves and potentially take their own life because of their guilt for what you did. So I want, and I know for those who have never felt this way, hearing this stuff might be even more difficult because you are listening to somebody you care about talk about this. But it needs to be said. And you need to go through that process of each little step of doing this in your head and feeling it before doing it to understand the magnitude of that decision. Because it is not a small one. You are not small. You are not worthless. You are not unlovable. None of that is true. You are extremely lovable. You are not a mistake. You may have made mistakes, but you are not a mistake. You don't need to earn love. You don't need to earn your own love for yourself from other people. That's not something you need to earn. Babies don't come out of the womb and you're like, dense, baby. Dense or I won't love you. Like, no, you just love the baby because they're a baby. Because they're this little bundle of heart and soul and you love them. And that's what you are. You are a bigger bundle of heart and soul and we love you. You don't need to earn anybody's love. Especially your own. That's not something like if I hit these goals, if I do this right, no. You are just loved by God, the universe, whatever you want to believe in, you are loved. And taking yourself out of this life will never, ever, ever be part of the plan. Everybody has a plan in life. Whether you believe that or not, I know it. There have been too many things that have happened in my life and other people's lives to not believe that. Sure, there may be different paths, different timelines, if you want to call them, where you choose to do something when you could have done something else, and it splits off, and there's a version of you doing that and a version of you doing this. But there is no version of you where your death is by your own hand. That is not something that is planned for you. Never. And what I picture is I wrote this down. So I picture everybody has a blueprint. Everybody has like their own little hall of records where their blueprints are. And I pictured this image of like this angel or this being. When somebody has taken their own life, I picture them walking down this dark, like dimly lit hallway, and they are somber and they are sad, and they walk all the way down. They're in like somebody's blueprint is that building, and they go down into this dark room. They have to unlock it. It's dusty, it's dark, the light's flickering, and they pop on all these monitors. And these monitors are filled with people who you have touched in your life or will touch in your life. And I just picture this person, this angel, this whoever, looking so sad because they've had to do this way too many times. And this was never meant to happen. This was never meant to be a room that was created, but it was a fail-safe. And it was never meant to actually exist, but it had to be created because of you taking your own life. And all these monitors are on, and you see everybody interacting, everybody fine, because you're still there. And then the person has to flip up this glass thing with a button underneath it and hit the button, and the button erases you from the future. And the screens go black and they come back on, and everybody's like, this feels weird. And it's because their lives have been completely shifted into something that wasn't planned in any way, shape, or form, because you have chosen to remove yourself from a life you never were supposed to remove yourself from. Like that's it. It's the only way I can describe like what can happen. Like it was this weird image that popped into my head. So I'm sorry like that got weird, but I picture just this being so sad and just praying that they don't have to go into another room like this, because those rooms were never meant to exist. And because they're not. You are never, ever meant to be taken out of this world by your own hand. Ever. That is not a choice that, no matter how hard things get, that's not something that is meant for you. You will never, ever, ever, ever make a big enough mistake, be so unlovable, do something so stupid or anything like that to make it okay for you to do that to yourself. Understand that, please. And I want you, if somebody you know is struggling with these thoughts, or you yourself are struggling with these, do what I said to do. Picture the entire thing. And if you're still like, well, you know, if you're not like I immersed myself in it and it was god awful. I could not even tell you the feeling of seeing my husband shattered, my kids destroyed, all of it. I saw and felt all of it without me there, because I chose to leave. I chose to leave my family in that way. And so when that and luckily that hasn't happened in a while, but I always, even if I'm still like, well, yeah, that's really horrible, and I feel like I'm okay now. I'm not gonna do it. I give myself tomorrow. Like, okay, give yourself tomorrow. That is another huge, huge, huge thing, to give yourself tomorrow before you make that decision, because most likely whatever cloud came over you will dissipate tomorrow. Not to I don't want to burst in a song and sound like Annie and the sun will come out tomorrow. But yeah, basically you give yourself tomorrow, and then the next day and the next day and the next day, and you keep going. And it's And then soon you'll be months down the road and you're still here. But sometimes, and I know, and please don't beat yourself up for it if it happens, something will trigger you into those feelings again. Like, I am a burden. I'm not worth it. I should just be gone. And it will take over you for a bit. That's, again, I've talked about this before, default feelings, default settings. So what you need to create then, if you feel like you're going to have something like that, if you're going into an environment where you know you might feel those feelings come back, you need to have a default setting, statement, song that you play in your head to basically delete that previous default thought. So tell yourself, stop, and say this sentence. You know you're worth more than this. You know you've come this far. Give me a break. And just any sort of anything, you know yourself better than anybody. And just think of a statement, think of a funny line, think of lyrics from a song that will snap you out of it. And have that be what you think if you are going to have those bad thoughts come back in. That's what I've had to do. Like, no, that is bull. I know I'm worth more than that. I know that I am needed here. I know that I am loved here. You don't get to tell me that I'm not worth it. And tell those voices in your head, those stupid voices that become a default when you're stuck in that depression. No, I'm still here and I'm staying here. You don't get to tell me that I have to go. You go. And tell those voices to shut the hell up and get out of here. And you need to have that default when you get thoughts like that. Plan it. Plan it in your brain. Tell yourself that. And if you start to still struggle, like I had a tough day, I thought to myself back when I had really that last really tough day, when I thought that this is going to be the time I do it, I thought back to that day and to now, and imagined myself not here. What would have happened if I actually did that? Think about all the moments that you've had since you had that last thought, and all of the great moments, all of the great memories, all of the great interactions, all of those great things that have happened that wouldn't have happened if you weren't here. And what your family's life would have been like. I couldn't imagine what my family's life would have been like if back in July I would have done that. I wouldn't have been team mom for my kids' baseball team. That would have been completely different for them. My daughter would have never seen me cheer her on at her soccer game this season. The house wouldn't be decorated for Christmas already. There would be so many different things. Where would my husband be at? What would be all of these different things that would be completely different. It's not a Hallmark movie where the spouse dies and then 6 months later you fall in love with somebody else. Better not be the case. But it's not the case. And I am so grateful that I chose to stay. So be grateful that you chose to stay. Think about how different things would be if you made that mistake and you gave up on yourself. And you did that. So those are really big steps those are steps that you need to take and you need to think about before, when you get into that bad spot, when those thoughts come up. But again, what also helps, like I said in my last Therapy Thursday episode, put on some music. There are so many different songs that you can listen to change your outcome. And music it just hits your soul. It just snaps you out of whatever mode you're in, whatever depression you're in. If you find those songs, taking your own life is a big deal. It is a huge, massive deal with ripple effects and consequences that were never supposed to happen. It is not in your plan to do that. So you have to please do your very best to go through these steps. Think about, if you were to do it, what would really happen? Would you get sent right back? Would you just be left here to linger as a spirit and watch your family and friends mourn over you? Go through all of the steps if you were to actually do it, think about it in your head, from doing it, notification for your family, so on. Change your environment. If you're stuck, if you're laying in bed thinking about this stuff, get up, go for a walk. I know it sounds like so easy and simple, but go for a walk, put in some headphones or something, and listen to some songs. And I'm sorry, I know this episode is now over an hour, and I was trying to keep it short, but this is too important. So I hope that you've stuck around to this point. But music can be absolutely life-changing, or just even knowing that you're not alone. There's celebrities that have all the money, everything you would think, everything that they could ever want, struggling with this. There's Jared Padalecki from Supernatural. He created his own, and I've got multiple shirts, and he's one of the reasons I stayed as well. He said he suffered from depression, and he said, always keep fighting. No matter what, always keep fighting. And he created his own merchandise line of shirts that say always keep fighting, and he is really big on taking care of your self-worth, and whether it's through therapy or talking about it, and not shying away from your struggles, from your mental struggles. So, or Dan Reynolds from Imagine Dragons, all of those songs that he sings a lot of them are about mental health and struggling with those things. And he's been very open about his struggles with mental health and going to therapy, how therapy saved his life. His therapist saved his life. It's not just, people deal with this all the time. You are so far from alone dealing with this, and you have to know that. There are so many different artists that have all these different songs that you can listen to snap you out of this. Andy Grammer is a huge one. His song Don't Give Up on Me is one, or newer ones that he's come out with. And I'm going to read, again, I'm sorry that this is long, but it's worth it. I'm going to read some of the lyrics from some of these songs from these artists. There's Still Smiling by Andy Grammer. So he says, all the locks won't budge. You've tried every door. I don't know if I can take much more. Like my strength is limited. Not sure when I will win again. On the edge of giving in. Oh, but then I remember I'm a warrior. I got my sword, yeah. I've been there before, yeah. So I stand up, splash some water, look myself in the eye, feel the crack of a smile. Yeah, I'm all right. You tried to knock me out, but it's a long fight, and I'm not going down. I got blood on my teeth, black on my eyelids, but I'm still smiling. No matter what, you keep going. You keep going, because it's not always going to be that way. It's not always going to be hard. It's not always going to be a struggle. And you just have to realize that you're worth staying, that the people that you love want you to stay. Then he does another one where it's called Not the End. And he says, my world is better with you in it. Don't you ever take that away from me. Borrow my eyes till you can see. And don't push down so low. Don't know if you're ever going to get relief, so take my lungs till you can breathe. It's just a chapter in your story. Turn that page and grab that pen, because darling, everything will be all right. If it's not all right, then it's not the end. Don't you trust what they are saying? All those voices in your head. See, like what I've said, like those voices in your head that say, just do it already. Like, you're not worth it. Da, 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 da. No, listen to that song. Listen to it. Listen to me. Those terrible voices in your head are wrong. 1,000% wrong. So he's just one artist. There's Livingston is another really good one. He talks about in his song Glow, like, your heart is gold, more than I could give, more than I can give. You're like magic, turn the pain into passion, turn the radio to static, but you don't even know you have it. Shine on me like a shooting star. Love, give me your broken heart. You're still alive. I hope you know. I won't leave till I fix your scars. Don't care if your sky is dark. So it's him saying he's not going to give up on whoever is struggling. So don't give up on yourself. And a lot of his songs are really good to listen to. Chase McDaniel is another one. He's had some really big struggles. He's had struggle. He's been in rehab and different things. He struggled with those thoughts of taking his own life. He came out with a song called Made It This Far. And it's, when you hit rock bottom, man, it seems bad, but there's a lot of people like me, can't turn back. We've made it this far. There's a little more beat in our broken hearts. From where we've been to where we are, can't turn back. We've made it this far. When you want to be 6 feet under, feel like you've had enough, feels so worthless, think it'll hurt less if you go to bed, don't wake back up. But you ain't ever let it take you out, so you know you can make it out right now. We can't turn back. We've made it this far. There's a little more beat in our broken hearts. So it's just, you've already made it this far. And that's what I said. Like, the older I got, like, do I really want to risk potentially starting over? Especially with the world and how everything is today. Do you really want to start as a baby and go through all of the crap you've already gone through? But in this time? No, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Please don't do that. That is not something that we should ever want to do. We've already made it this far, guys. Just keep going with me. Keep going. I stay, you stay. That's the deal. If you feel like you can't stay, or you're struggling with wanting to stay, for the love of God, message me, please. And I will talk with you for however long you need. No matter what. No judgment. But there's also, again, I feel like music is so powerful and it's free. Just go on YouTube or whatever. I've got Spotify. Just go on one of those. A friend of mine said Break Stuff from Limp Bizkit is her kid's quick release song for emotions, like dealing with a crappy day at school or bullying. Like, she played that for her kids so they could just like rah and scream and swear and everything and release those emotions. Like, that's their go-to song that makes them feel better. I've had friends talk about Bone Thugs and Notorious B.I.G. with the song Notorious Thugs, Rough Riders Anthem by DMX. There's the next episode, Dr. Dre, Regulate, Warren G. That's things like that. Another friend mentioned Dive by Luke Combs. Listening to Hawaiian music when he was struggling with his dad going through some really bad health issues, or church music when he's struggling with himself. It's so easy and it's free, and it snaps you out of it. Like, there's so many different songs out there. Just try listening to one by Andy Grammer, or like one for me lately has been Redemption Song by The Score. That one gets me pumped up into a really good mood. There's another one that is brand new. Let me see where I have that. Put it in here somewhere. Chainbreaker by Powerhouse and Stealth. That is another really good one. They're talking about being a chain breaker. They're strong. Nothing's going to bring them down. That is a really good song. It's got a great beat. I like played it in my headphones a bunch of times the other night, and it was just like, yeah, like nothing can stop me. I'm strong. I can get through whatever I'm going through, and so can you. This is, again, I apologize for it being, watching my time tick, 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 tick. But I felt like I had to come on and talk to you guys about this. It's with how much I've struggled with it, and the thought of me not being here anymore because I had a moment of thinking I wasn't good enough to stay, and I wasn't lovable, and I wasn't worth it. Really imagine this podcast wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't have done this episode. I wouldn't have done the episode about our favorite foods that are gone, or our music videos. There would be so many different things if I had done that. And just, would it have been worth it? No. And the damage that would have been done would have been immense. And I know that. And as someone who's recovering from dealing with their low self-esteem and self-worth, like that's, I feel like that means a lot to say that, and I feel stronger saying it. And I want you to say it to yourself. You are lovable no matter what you do. There's nothing that you will ever do that will justify you taking yourself out of here, out of this world, out of this life. No one will celebrate you doing that. No one. No one will be okay with that. So please know you are so loved. You are worth it. Please use these tips that I've given you. They absolutely, I know they seem intense, but if you're talking about taking yourself out of this world, then you need to do this intensity. If you like it, this isn't a joke. So do those steps. If you are still struggling or you don't want to do those steps, then there's the 988 number that you can call or text. You can always try that. Or message me at thehodgypodgypod@gmail.com or through Instagram with the same name. Links are always in the show notes. So please don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed. I just spilled out my whole life story to you about all of this that I've struggled with. So I hope this is helpful for everybody and that you all stuck around to the bitter end of this. And Monday's episode will be lighter and brighter as we talk about some of the music videos from the 90s. There are a gajillion, but I could only do a few because we don't have hours and hours and hours. So that will be a fun episode for you guys to tune into as well. As usual, if you like this, subscribe, share it, please. Whether you like this podcast or not, share this episode near and far. I feel like it is really important to get this message across to everybody. It's something that everybody is affected by. Please, at the very least, just share this with others and tell them to listen all the way through. I love you guys so much. You are truly so loved. I mean that. I don't have to know you to know that you are worthy and you are loved. I know it in my heart of hearts. So I will see you guys on the next Menagerie Monday. Bye, guys.